Last time I saw Jack.
I used to have an office right across the hall from Johnny Bonds and Jack Schumacher. The best job in the world.
How long you been in law enforcement?
Started in April of '73.
So actually, going on 43 years.
I must have started when I was 15.
Jack Schumacher is a good friend of mine from our days at the Harris County DA's office. He's an old school cop who was a DEA agent for over 20 years. And that's the type of experience that Alan and I need with us this week, because this time we're not just looking into one homicide case, we're looking at three. April 1992, Laura Walsh gets murdered.
Based on the reports, she was stabbed 3 times.
Maybe sexually assaulted.
And then set on fire on the couch.
And she was 43, kind of a carefree lifestyle. Everybody liked her. She was a nice lady and got along with everyone. And then in September of 1992, 5 months later, a couple of blocks away, Eugene and Keith get stabbed and murdered upstairs in a bedroom and set on fire. Everybody knew Gene because he had lots of parties, very generous with anybody that needed anything in the neighborhood. And poor Keith was only 23 years old. And from what everybody says, he was one heck of a gifted musician.
You have possibly a rape and a murder, and then you have 2 males murdered. The only similarity in the two are obviously the fires to cover up the crimes. Due to the fact that Laura's murder and Gene and Keith's murder occurred only months apart, a few blocks from each other, and both involved arson, investigators have always wondered if the cases are related. But there's never been enough evidence to solve either one. In all the years I worked homicide, I had a few scenes where fires were set to actually cover up the murder, but it's not very common. And fire destroys evidence.
Yeah.
We've never tackled 2 cases at once, and this will be our biggest challenge yet. Because not only do we have the age of these cases and the arson factor to deal with, we've got over 10 potential suspects.
It's a small village of petty criminals and career criminals that could have been involved in this.
There are so many unanswered questions. Are these 2 crimes connected? How many killers are we looking for? And most importantly, how are we going to catch them?
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
There are so many cold cases out there just waiting to be solved.
The crime scene ultimately tells the story of the murder.
We want to bring justice to these victims. Nice and hot. Hello.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Finally in
Stewart.
person.
Hi, Kelly. J.P. Beverly.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Jack Schumacher.
Nice to meet you. So we were asking ourselves as we pulled up, how big is White Settlement?
It's about 5 square miles, and we have about 16,000 people here.
I would assume your murder rate's pretty low.
It is pretty low.
3 murders in 5 months is big.
Yes, sir. But this was a kind of a shock back then.
How long you been the chief?
I've been chief 2 months,
Whoa. Brand new.
but I've been here 23 years.
Okay.
One of these murders happened on his second day on the job.
Oh, really? Well, we hope that we have some good luck on these cases and figure out if they're connected or not once and for all. And you can
Absolutely.
put that aside as a new chief.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
You got a place for us to work, Stu?
Yes, ma'am.
The murder of Laura Walsh occurred 5 months prior to the murder of Gene Giddens and Keith Durrington. I got a copy of that case file and just started reading it. The more I read, the more I became interested, and I started believing that it could still potentially be solved.
And these are pictures you found of Laura, right?
They were provided to me by her family, but yes.
For us, it's the first time we've been able to have 2 different cases and try and see if they're connected. Kind of different to approach it from that way. Well, Laura Walsh was only 43 when she was murdered. She had 2 kids. She had just recently come to White Settlement, right?
Yeah, about several months prior, yes.
Okay.
Probably hadn't had a lot of time to make a lot of friends.
I think she got along with everybody, though.
The letters of recommendations that were included in the original homicide report demonstrated that she was thought of by several past employers as being conscientious, competent, friendly, just a top-notch employee.
Start with the beginning of Laura's case.
The morning of April 2nd, 1992, 911 got a call about a fire at a house on 200 Russell. Called him by the next door neighbor. He'd been with her the evening before, said she was intoxicated. He actually covered her up when she fell asleep on the couch and left. He got up the next morning to go to work, looks over and sees a chair inside the doorway, and it was fully engulfed. Went right to the last place he'd seen her. He couldn't see because of the smoke. Finds her, grabs her feet, and pulls her out into the yard. About that time, realized she was deceased.
Laura's body was badly burned, but the medical examiner also found fatal stab wounds to her chest. It looks as though the killer set the place on fire to cover up the murder. There was evidence she was sexually assaulted, and male DNA evidence was recovered from the sexual assault kit.
Let's start over here. So what makes us think our suspect might have been a random, unknown intruder?
I would say burglary.
The purse contents. The purse that was dumped out on the bed that was burning.
What else makes us think that it's random?
Lifestyle,
High
yeah.
risk.
High risk lifestyle.
And let's break it down.
She liked to party a little bit, liked to drink. She had several, what they would term sugar daddies.
Often left her doors unlocked, right?
Yeah, left her doors unlocked. And regularly slept on the couch in view of the open door as well.
Back in '92, the DNA from Laura's sexual assault kit did not match her neighbor or any other viable suspects, so the case went cold. But last year, when Detective Stewart reopened the case, the evidence was uploaded into CODIS and got a match to a man recently convicted for possession of a controlled substance. All right, let's start with Donald Wright. The DNA that comes back to him is from the anal swab, right?
Mm-hmm. Donald lived at 201 Russell, across the street from her.
Across the street. How else did they know each other?
There's no indication that they knew each other, including when I interviewed him. He says he didn't know her.
Is there any reason whatsoever your DNA would have been located in that residence? None whatsoever? Any chance you ever had sex with that woman? No.
He denies ever being in the house or ever having sex with her. The DNA evidence contradicts Donald's claim that he had never known Laura. But what we know about her lifestyle, and with Donald not having any criminal record for sexual misconduct, it's possible their encounter was consensual and that Donald isn't Laura's killer at all. He might have been just scared to admit to the police that he had had sex with a woman that had just been murdered.
What was his criminal activity back then in '92?
He was a dope fiend by his own admission. Possession of marijuana, criminal mischief in '87, burglary of a habitation.
Are the burglaries of a habitation, of a car, of a building?
They were of a house. One was within walking distance of his house.
There's no doubt that Donald Wright is the primary suspect. But to move forward, we're going to need to rule out the possibility that Laura was killed by a random, unknown intruder. And we're also going to need to figure out if her murder is connected to our other crime. Okay, so we're going to start talking about the double?
I believe so. The two victims in the double, one was named Eugene Giddens, and the other's name was Jonathan Durrington. He went by the name Keith. Keith was 23 years old. He had just graduated from TCU. He was a piano player, studied under Van Cliburn.
You're kidding.
No.
He was that good?
He was that good. He was an up-and-coming world-renowned pianist. Gene just loved to hear him play. Gene had recently moved back from Hawaii, where he was a travel agent. He had been diagnosed with HIV. He was given a severance package, and he moved back with his mom and dad. And his mother and father had gone out of town, and he decided to have a house party that night.
On the day of the murder, Gene cashed a $3,000 severance check to help pay for the party he planned that night.
The party took place on Saturday evening, September 5th. The party broke, and the last people left about 10:30 to 11. It was decided at the last minute that Keith was going to stay overnight and continue to play the piano with Gene. They were both very intoxicated.
No one saw or heard from Gene or Keith after the party that night or any time the following day. But 27 hours later, around midnight on September 7th, a 911 call came in from Gene's neighbor reporting that the house was consumed in flames. Since nobody ever saw or heard from Gene or Keith on Sunday, police believe they were murdered soon after the party and the fire was set later.
Firefighters arrive on scene. They're doing the checks, and they find two burnt bodies in the north middle bedroom. During the autopsy, it was discovered that both subjects had been struck in the head, probably hard enough to render them unconscious. And both victims had had their throats cut.
So the party is Saturday night?
Saturday night.
And then the actual fire is Sunday night, Monday
about
morning.
27 hours later is when
It's
the
the
fire
delayed
is.
fire that I can't figure
That's
out.
what I'm saying.
It's a mystery why the house fire was set so many hours after the murders, but the fact that arson was involved suggests a possible link between their murders and Laura's.
What do you think, Jack?
I think there's probably some sort of common denominators that connect them.
We need to consider Donald Wright a suspect in Jean and Keith's murder. But this is where it gets tricky because the police discovered that there are 10 viable suspects that either had direct ties to Jean, attended Jean's party, or were said to have been involved. And Donald Wright is not one of them.
The suspects that we're looking at are all tied together.
The one link that the police were able to uncover is that Donald did sometimes live with a couple of the party goers. But there's no evidence that he knew Jean or Keith or knew anything about the party. So first we need to figure out with Laura's murder if Donald raped and killed her or if they had consensual sex and she was later killed by a random unknown intruder. Then we can figure out whether or not Laura's case is connected to Jean and Keith's. This isn't going to be easy.
My gosh, it's a lot.
In 1992, 2 different crimes were committed that the police believe may be linked. The murder of Laura Walsh and the double homicide of Jean Giddens and Keith Durrington. So we're going to go see Laura's daughter, Jennifer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We know that Laura Walsh struggled with substance abuse, and that had an impact on her 2 children. Hi, Jennifer. I'm Kelly. Nice to meet you. But we also know that she was deeply loved by her children, and they've been desperate for answers for 23 years. I'm glad that we get the chance to speak to Laura's daughter, Jennifer, today.
Appreciate you being able to come down for this. And we just wanted to see if you just tell us, a little bit about your mom.
I lived with her from when I was 9 to 15, and it was a very fast life. But the good days, I remember she'd be cooking, like, for a feast. She could cook, and she loved to write. She was always writing. She would do almost anything for anybody. If you needed something and she didn't have it, she would get it for you. She was a good person. She was an addict, and she was struggling with her life. Watching what I observed with her helped change me, because at one time I was a menace to society, and today I'm not. Today it's more about getting out and helping others.
What do you think your mom would tell you today if she were still here, Jennifer?
Well,
I think she'd be proud of you.
I look for her in other people.
Still looking for a mom.
Yeah.
I don't think that ever goes away.
No. I wish I would have gotten to know her. Just to love her.
It's heartbreaking that Jennifer's mom was taken away from her before they could reconcile and enjoy their lives together.
Under the circumstances, she was the best of what she could be during what the lifestyle she was living. She did not deserve what happened to her. She didn't deserve that.
We have to look at the case professionally and critically and appreciate her lifestyle, and you know what we're talking about. But at the same time, she didn't deserve that, and we're going to do whatever we can.
I'm grateful. Whoever did this took her away from her family. It doesn't matter if it was 23 years ago, 25 years ago. It still feels like it was yesterday.
Your hug. Stay strong, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Yolanda, nice to meet you.
Hey, Yolanda, Jack Schumacher.
Nice to meet you, Jack.
How you doing, Sunshine?
I'm good, honey. How are you?
How you like this Texas heat? Yolanda has flown in to help us take a look at both crime scenes from 1992, starting with Laura Walsh's home.
All right, guys, well, let's go look at these 2 crime scenes and their similarities and if we really think they're connected or if we don't. One thing I did realize right away, this is a problem neighborhood to begin with.
Yeah, they had problems back then.
Hopefully we can gain a better understanding of how Laura's murder occurred and how the fire was set. Denise, show us where everything was back then.
So basically, you had the couch along this wall, and then there was the end table over there in that corner.
And that door is the one that goes to neighbors.
That door leads directly out and goes right in underneath the carport. He said, you know, when he left that night, he went out that door.
According to Laura's neighbor, Laura drank heavily that night. And when he left around 11 p.m., she was asleep on the couch.
When she's dragged down the front yard, the only thing she has on her body is a sweatshirt, which is consistent with sexual assault.
Based on the DNA evidence, we know that Donald Wright had sex with Laura at some point before she was killed. But whether it was consensual or rape is still a big question. Add to that, it's a big leap for Donald to have gone from petty burglar to murderer. And we have to consider this may have been a random intruder. What is Mr. Wright doing? Did he break in here that night? Did he rape her and then kill her because she knows who he is?
We have not found anyone that can associate the two together.
Ever like partying together, drinking?
At all.
Okay. Let's talk about what we know that did happen in here. Our victim is stabbed 3 times to the upper left chest area. One superficial only went in like 2 inches. The other 2, one actually went in 5 inches and one 6. 2 of Laura's wounds were fatal, one piercing the lung and one through the heart. She didn't have any defensive wounds, suggesting that she was attacked while passed out on the couch or taken by surprise. That knife is going from the front to the back. It's going right to left and upwards. It's almost like going like that. You know what I'm saying?
If she's laying here on the couch, her head's here, her feet are down here, you go to the kitchen right there, you come back with the knife. As you're coming back from the kitchen, right or left-handed, here's your perfect angle to go 1, 2, 3. And that's consistent with what we have.
Could have done it that way.
Angle,
it doesn't matter. You're still going up.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, nobody can say for sure if he did it that way or if he did it this way. That's all speculation.
That's why you'll never have an expert in a knife murder case that'll tell you anything. They'll tell you double edge and single edge, and that's it.
And of course, direction, and that's going to be it. They don't want to speculate on the different scenarios of how it could happen because we don't know. One thing that is clear, the suspect's intent was to kill. The evidence also suggests that he rummaged through her purse, potentially looking for cash, before lighting Laura's body on fire. He tries to set the fire on her chest, but it's pretty clear that goes out actually pretty fast because the burn wounds to the chest are not really that bad. But what does end up catching on fire is that last back cushion of the seat there by her feet that does catch on fire and burns well enough to go actually up the wall. Altogether, there are 3 distinct points of ignition. The couch Laura was found on, a chair by the front door, and the bed in her bedroom. They didn't have much luck in actually setting this place on fire. But you do have your 3 points to hope that these fires will meet each other in the middle and just probably take this house.
Plus, he didn't want anything left from where he jumped over a person.
Of course.
Talking to one of the fire investigators, he believed that the only reason it didn't go fully engulfed, it didn't have enough air.
Right.
If this door had been left open, the whole house probably would have gone up.
Donald Wright makes the most sense for Laura's murder, but he has no history of sexual violence. And when you take into account Laura's high-risk lifestyle, we still can't rule out the theory that at some point after Donald had sex with Laura, she still could have been killed by some unknown intruder. It's not a complicated scene, but there's not a lot to work with here. That's kind of part of the problem.
That's why it went cold so fast.
This house now she had it rebuilt, looks almost exactly like it did 23 years ago.
In April 1992, Laura Walsh was murdered here in White Settlement, Texas. Just 5 months later, so were Gene Giddens and Keith Durrington. We're here to try to solve both crimes and figure out if they are connected.
When the firefighters arrived, this front door, they said, was locked. They had to force the front door. There was a storm door on it at the time from the pictures, and went in and started battling the fire.
Gene had just cashed his $3,000 severance check, which police believe was the motive in his murder. Keith, who decided to crash at Gene's house that night after his party, was likely just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Why don't you take us in and walk us through it? At this point, we're looking for any similarities or differences between this crime scene and Laura's.
This room is smaller than we thought, huh?
Yeah, it is. This room, which is now a bathroom, was the study/guest bedroom or Jean's room at the time. This is where the two bodies were found. They weren't just burned, they had both had their throats cut pretty viciously. And at the autopsy, the ME indicated that they had both been struck on the head, it appeared, as well.
It's pretty vicious, huh?
Very vicious.
The blows to the back of the victims' heads and their slashed throats suggests that the killer hit them in the head to knock them unconscious before using a knife to finish the job. Well, you hit each one of them in the head one time. The ME says they would both be incapacitating blows, and then no fight, you just cut their throats and you're done.
All.
Right, no struggle.
We don't know if Jean and Keith were asleep or awake when they were attacked, but we do know their bodies were discovered face up, lying close to each other in an L shape.
So Jean's here, and then Keith is this way. Like he would be, the bathtub obviously been converted, but
To
this
Jean
way.
first. So he hits him in the back of the head.
Correct.
And then he just falls down right here.
The blow to the head puts him on the ground.
Okay.
And then you just reach down, effortless, and cut your throat. And the cut is from the side towards the middle, not all the way around.
One swoop.
One swoop. And then Keith is this way.
And his head's over here. Is he on his back too?
Yeah.
So one blow to the head, they collapse down to the floor.
Correct.
His head's over here, and my feet were over here a while ago. So now
They have to almost be touching probably. And then the same thing. One single cut to the throat.
golly, if you think
You
about
gotta
it,
figure no resistance.
we're talking about blow, blow, slice, slice, and that's all it took. And in this room, the fire is set where?
At the bodies.
On the bodies.
On the bodies. The fire was used blatantly to conceal the murder.
Just like in Laura Walsh's murder, Jean and Keith's killer used a sharp instrument to kill them and then try to hide evidence by lighting the bodies on fire. And police never found Jean's severance money, so stolen cash seems to be a part of both crimes.
You talked about the 3 points of origin at Laura's house. What are the points of origin here?
Well, didn't we have the piano seat, the edge of it?
Right, the fringe on the piano seat was set on fire. Then there was also a chair.
It's just the edge of it that
It's
burned.
just the edge of it that burned.
Again, it didn't go up either in flames.
Then there was a chair by the back
Right.
sliding door over here that was burned down to its metal. And if I remember right, I think the tablecloth was lit as well here.
I thought so in the center. There
In the
looked like
center,
there was
they
burn
lit it
marks.
as they're coming down and they're going out the back trying to get something, to fully engulf the place to destroy all the evidence.
The multiple points of ignition at this crime scene are also similar to the arson tactics used by Laura Walsh's killer. But is it a coincidence or a connection?
Jack, what are you thinking as far as similarities between the two cases?
Well, to me, I'm looking at knives of some sort of use. Almost the same number of fires lit in each place.
Yes.
And it's all in the same neighborhood.
No cash in each of them?
No cash found at either location.
Nothing much stolen.
But electronics left.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a big, huge point because as we all know that most burglars are going to take electronic TVs, stereos, things like that they can fence. Not in these cases. Those items are just not taken.
I'm thinking person didn't have a vehicle, nothing. You're not going to walk down the street with a VCR or a TV either. So I would say your person's on foot.
Which makes you think they live close by if they're on foot.
Absolutely. There are similarities between the crime scenes, but there is one glaring difference. Laura's crime involved sexual assault, and the primary motive in Jean and Keith's was money. So the question remains, were these crimes committed by the same suspect or a different suspect who was merely inspired by how Laura's killer got away with murder? Well, you guys, good luck with this. I knew
We're gonna need it, huh?
Well, it got a lot of interviews coming up, so maybe some things will clear up.
We're hoping so.
It's time to turn our focus back on Laura's case because the DNA evidence in that case is the strongest lead we have. I'm Alan Brown. How you doing, sir?
Hurdle Jr.
See if we can do something with this old case. Haddon Hertel dated Laura just shortly before she was murdered. He was cleared through his DNA back in 1992, but he may be able to help us understand Laura's world at that time. How long did you and Laura date?
God, that long. Less than a year.
And so were y'all like pretty steady or were just casual relationship?
Yeah, just casually.
Laura, how was she making it money-wise?
I don't know how she's making money. I never asked because, I just wanted to have sex with her and have a good time with her. I wasn't really worried about it.
It's a pretty personal question, but she into anal sex?
No.
No?
I mean, she never asked me.
But the whole time y'all dated, no freaky stuff. Did she ever mention a guy by the name of Donald Wright?
Donald Wright, no.
Did you ever know a Donald Wright?
No, Donald Wright.
The anal swabs in Laura's sexual assault kit tested positive for Donald Wright's DNA. But if Laura wasn't interested in anal sex, it makes you question whether the sex between her and Donald was consensual.
Is there any reason whatsoever your DNA would have been located in that residence?
Callahan, your old married name or your maiden name?
No, it's my maiden name. Everybody gives me a hard time. Especially the old guys are like, Dirty Harry, is that your uncle?
Oh, yeah. Callahan.
I wish he was my uncle. I'd be rich.
We're investigating 2 murder cases from 1992, the murder of Laura Walsh and the double homicide of Gene Giddens and Keith Durrington. In Laura's case, our suspect Donald Wright's DNA was recovered from her sexual assault kit, and the notion that their sexual encounter might have been consensual is looking less likely.
We're gonna go see Donald's sister.
The thing is, Donald has no reported history of sexual offenses, but maybe his sisters can help us understand more about his past.
Hi, are you Tabitha by any chance?
Hopefully, Tabitha will be willing to talk to us.
I know my brothers have a past, and I couldn't tell you how many times he stole money and stuff from Mom and stole from Dad.
Do you know how they would break in or what they would do or breaking in? Did you ever talk to them about all that?
They never included me in all that.
Who was on the meth back then?
Donald. Donald's always had it. He still has a problem with it.
Was he shooting up?
Yeah.
Is that about when he was doing the burglaries?
I'm sure.
Is that why he was doing the burglaries?
Probably.
How would Donald act on meth? I mean, violent?
Donald wasn't very violent at all. You know, he may be a dope fiend, but he wasn't violent. He's a thief, not a violent person.
Okay. It's clear that Donald has a history of criminal activity, but we're still not finding anything having to do with sexual deviancy.
Well, she was nice. She was nice.
I wonder if this is 16th him.
That was 16th there.
That was?
It usually comes after 17.
Ha ha. Ah, that's pretty freaking good. Donald Wright's other sister, Veronica, has agreed to meet with us.
We could try to stay cool a little bit. Yeah.
We need a good history lesson on him. And that kind of will give us an indication of whether we're going down the wrong path.
We were investigating a couple cold cases that happened in White Settlement back in 1992. One on the street off of Russell. Do you remember the fire?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No.
And the lady was killed?
That I have no recollection on.
Or who lived in your house on Hannah?
Me, Rick, my sister, I believe, my mom.
Where did Donald mostly stay at?
My dad's, I believe.
Do you know, did Donald ever do any burglaries?
I do know my brother had sticky fingers and broke into places. And I just know that there's a character in my brother. You know, he thinks he's invincible and he likes to rob, steal, cheat. One time my brother was like trying to use me as a decoy. You know, going out at night, and my brother was going to be waiting in the bushes, and I'm supposed to track somebody, and then my brother was going to jump him and get money. Now, that never happened, but he wanted me to do it.
Right.
Okay. What was he going to jump him with?
I don't know.
Ronnie, you think that if he was high on meth, Donald would ever be capable of raping anybody?
I believe it, yes.
Why?
He tried something with me.
Okay. How much did he force you? How far did he get, Ronnie?
We went swimming, and then he was just like, well, let me get on your back. And then, so we went piggybacking, and he started fondling my breasts and everything. And then I got out of the pool, and I ran. And then he sent me a letter stating he was in love with me. And he wrote in the letter that how he used to look at me and want to have sex with me.
That's kind of a lot to do when your brother's assaulting you, and it's incest, and he tells you he's in love with you.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
That's a whole new side of Donald Wright that no one's ever told us. So you know from personal experience what Donald will do to a woman.
Yes.
Would you be shocked to hear that Donald raped another lady?
I wouldn't be shocked. I would say it's within him.
If Donald is capable of assaulting his own flesh and blood, it seems a heck of a lot more likely that he could have raped Laura Walsh. And if so, he probably wanted to make sure that nobody ever found out.
One time my brother, he asked me if I've ever killed anybody, would you want capital punishment for me? And I said yes. So somewhere in him, there's a thought of it.
Alan hooked up with the ranger that's working the case, and the plan is for Alan and the ranger to personally interview Donald.
Stu specifically not going into the interview because we figure the minute Donald Wright sees Stu, he'll shut down and not talk.
You got to get him comfortable and talking,
Exactly.
and then spin it, kind of slowly spin it into your conversation. We're on our way to interrogate the prime suspect in Laura Walsh's murder case, Donald Wright, who's currently serving time for drug charges and is up for parole next year. We've got his DNA on Laura's sexual assault kit, but hopefully he'll slip up and give us some information that'll make the case even better.
If I were y'all, and I don't know if y'all discussed that or not, don't even mention White Settlement Police Department, because I think as soon as he hears it, he's going to shut down.
We're going to be joined by a Texas Ranger for the interview. The Texas Rangers commonly help smaller agencies with major crimes. And the one we're meeting today is the same ranger that assisted Altus, Oklahoma in arresting Garland Allen for murder last year.
Hey, Donald. Hey, how you doing? Alan Brown. Hey, nice to meet you, sir. Grab a seat. You doing all right today? Yes, sir. How long have you been here? You live in White Settlement at a time that is so important to me. Tell me what you know about the fire where the two guys died.
Nothing good. You see it on the news.
You saw it on the news. Do you know who did those murders?
I don't know.
What were you doing that night?
I was at home, sleeping or doing drugs. Man.
Okay, sleeping or doing drugs. You didn't kill Gene. Did you kill Gene's buddy?
No.
Okay. Did you light the house on fire? What's your take? I mean,
I don't know nothing about this murder. I don't know who done it. I didn't do it, and I didn't have nothing to do with it.
All I want to do is give you an opportunity.
I do not have nothing to do with it.
Okay. I want to give you another opportunity. And I interviewed you on the other deal about Walsh, about the girl lived across the street. The White Settlement officer, when he was going through the evidence, found the rape kit, and they put it in the CODIS. The reason it went to you is because it came back to you. Your DNA is all over her body, all over her insides of her body. That would prove sex occurred. All right? And now it's your choice. Oh, come on, man. How did they get in there? That's my question to you.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
You never had sex with her?
No.
Okay. Well, murder and the act of rape is going to get you death row. It's a capital felony. All right? It's death. If it's consensual, this is your opportunity.
I don't know nothing about it.
Nothing about it. Are you sure?
Okay.
So you didn't kill Laura Walsh. You never had sex with Laura Walsh. No? Is that what you said? Okay. No. And you've never been in Laura Walsh's house.
The ranger gave Donald every opportunity in the world to say he'd had sex with Laura, but he continued to lie. At the end of the interview, looking at Donald's eyes, I thought we were right there. I thought Donald was ready to give it up, but he didn't.
I'll make you a deal. You change your mind, all right, and this is an accident or a drug-induced whatever, and you have remorse, I'll come back and I'll listen to it, and then I'll take back to the district attorney. Is that fair?
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate it.
Let's talk about what we have on our single case against Donald Wright. We're talking about Donald Wright, that we know is a burglar in the neighborhood to feed his meth habit. We started this whole investigation because we know we got a CODIS hit on an anal swab that says that no other person could have done this to the tune of 1 in 62 quadrillion. We also now know that Donald denies knowing Laura, having sex with Laura, being in her house, anything having to do with her world. In addition to that, when Alan and the Ranger interviewed Donald again the other day, he flat out didn't jump on the defense of it was consensual.
If it's consensual, this is your opportunity. Okay, I don't know nothing about it.
And we find out when we go talk to Donald's sister, Veronica, that there was a time where he tried to sexually assault her. How much did he force you? How far did he get, Ronnie?
He started fondling my breasts and everything.
All that being said, how do y'all feel about Donald Wright as a suspect?
Oh, he's 100%.
Everything that we've learned points to Donald Wright being the person who raped and murdered Laura Walsh, and we have found nothing to support the idea that it was a random, unknown intruder. We're all optimistic that the DA will agree and make sure Donald Wright spends a long, long time in prison.
If you were there for the interview, you'd be like, you're done.
It's still unclear whether or not Donald Wright is responsible for the double murder of Gene Giddens and Keith Durrington. And we want to wait to present both cases to the DA if he's involved. What we can do now, though, is update Laura's daughter about her mom's case. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Hello, Jennifer.
Got off of work and drove all the way over here? Been worried all week? Trying not to.
Well, we have been all over creation this week. We have talked to a lot of different people.
Do you know anything about DNA, Jennifer? A little bit?
A little bit, yeah. Off the confirmed CODIS hit we got, I can't imagine any reason why they won't go forward with prosecution.
You should know that the name of the person whose DNA came back is Donald Wright. It's a name you've never heard of. You wouldn't know him. You never met him. I don't even know if your mom ever met him, but his name is Donald Wright. This case couldn't be any better.
It really couldn't.
It's not closure. That's something I have to find on the inside and through God. But it gives me a sense of peace. And then it makes me wonder how many more people did he do that to? I have a lot of gratitude today for the justice system at this point. For those that care, you know, that someone actually cared. You don't do stuff like this just because you gotta care. So for me, that means quite a bit.
You know what I came away from meeting you thinking? That you were very, very honest about your mom and her lifestyle and what kind of mother she truly was. But even with all that inside your head and inside your heart, you loved her with all your heart.
Sure I did. And I just wish that I could have grown old with her.
Well, you can't grow old with it, but you know what? You're going to grow old healthy, and all you can do is live the rest of your life in honor of your mom. Right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right now, I just feel really, I feel some peace and serenity and relief.
You're certainly welcome.
Don't worry, I'll be stalking you.
I hope you drive them crazy.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're so happy to be able to give Jennifer some peace. The murder of her mom has hung over Jennifer for all these years. And now, thanks to the persistence of Stu and Denise in the White Settlement Police Department, Jennifer can finally start to heal and move on. Now it's time to focus all of our attention on the other case we came here to solve. The double homicide of Gene Giddens and Keith Durrington. Due to similarities in the crime scenes and our belief that Donald Wright killed Laura Walsh, we need to look at him even closer as a suspect in Gene and Keith's murder. Though other than the crime scene, there isn't a lot of evidence to prove that he was involved. Gene and Keith's murders were about money, and in Laura's murder, we believe that the murder happened to cover up a sexual assault. And there's no evidence that Donald knew Gene or Keith or had any idea that Gene had $3,000 to steal. Plus, the police have identified 10 other potential suspects, many of whom attended Gene's party, have criminal records, and knew about his money. And any one of them could be Gene and Keith's killer. This is the biggest, most difficult case we have ever tried to solve. But if a killer is walking the streets of White Settlement, Texas, we need to do it.
White Settlement by the Indians in the area.
It's an old
As
name.
I understand it, yeah, it's an old name.
We're in White Settlement, Texas, where we've been investigating 3 unsolved murders. First, the 1992 sexual assault and murder of Laura Walsh.
She was stabbed 3 times
Sexually assaulted.
and set on fire on the couch.
Donald denies knowing Laura, having sex with Laura, anything having to do with her world. The name of the person whose DNA came back is Donald Wright. We believe that we've identified Laura's killer, so now we're focusing on the double homicide of good friends Gene Giddens and Keith Durrington, which occurred 5 months after Laura's murder.
Gene had recently moved back from Hawaii, and he decided to have a house party that night. Firefighters arrive on scene, they're doing the checks, then they find 2 burned bodies. Both victims had their throats cut. The fire was used blatantly to conceal the murder.
Gene and Keith's crime scene seems similar to Laura's, so it's possible Donald Wright was involved. But the challenge is that Gene and Keith's killer did not leave a murder weapon or DNA behind. And we've got 10 other potential suspects, all with strong motives, and any of them could be Gene and Keith's killer. There's a group of feuding neighbors who sold Gene drugs that day, a potential arsonist, and a group of ex-cons who lived in Donald's father's house, who allegedly showed up at Gene's house looking for cash that night. And the gang of teenagers who pointed fingers at each other, and one of them even signed a confession that they were all involved in the murders.
I told them about going in there and being a part of the murders.
This is the biggest, most difficult case we have ever tried to solve. It's going to be a huge challenge.
Yes, ma'am.
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
There are so many cold cases out there just waiting to be solved.
The crime scene ultimately tells the story of the murder.
We want to bring justice to these victims. So who are we going to meet from the families?
We're going to meet Linda, his mother, and his 2 sisters, Kimberly and Amy.
That's Keith's family?
Keith's family, yes.
And then from Gene's family?
We're meeting his sister Camilla and his brother John.
Okay. Before we jump into our investigation of Gene and Keith's murders, we want to meet their families. I am Kelly. Hello. Who were brought together because of this horrible crime 23 years ago. Thank y'all for all coming down here for us to talk to you. We've been working on this for a while.
I'm just so glad that somebody cares enough to try to figure it out now.
And Kimberly, you're in law enforcement.
I was about 3-year veteran at the time.
How does that affect everything?
I probably talk about it more than anybody because when there's somebody out there that needs that comfort, I know a little bit more than the normal person because I've gone through it.
Can y'all tell us some good stories about your brother?
I have a daughter who at the time was 3 years old. Her name is Madeline. He had a little make-believe world that he spent a lot of time in with her. The last night that I remember him being alive, he really was quite depressed, especially after he was diagnosed HIV. He was crying and telling me he was so afraid to die, but that he was so thankful that he had Madeline in his life.
Well, he was only 30 years old, Gene, and Keith was only 23 years old.
23 years old.
How have you handled it?
Well, it was a horrible day, the day that I learned that he had been killed. All of our dreams for him, his talent, his wit, his laugh, they were all gone. And it's still that hard today. But we have the memories. When he had his first piano lesson, he was hooked. And he was good.
He was an amazing pianist. He was amazing. He was really gifted.
Was Gene musical too?
Oh, very much. That was one thing they had very much in common.
Yeah.
And when Keith was actually staying at our house, they were in there like playing like dueling pianos.
Oh, wow.
And they were hugely talented, both of them. Hugely talented.
No one can promise you results, you know that. But we're going to try our hardest. It's so devastating to listen to what all these two families have lost.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for everything you're doing. Nice to finally meet you.
Fortunately, the White Settlement Police Department never gave up on this case. It's time for us to go back to the station and start working on what happened after Gene's party ended 23 years ago.
The party broke about 10:30 to 11, and the last people left were Gene and Keith. They were both very intoxicated. There was known to be narcotics there that night, just in the form of weed or marijuana, and acid was supposed to have been involved as well.
They're drunken party, and he probably didn't even lock the back door.
May not even lock the front door.
He may not have even locked the front door, exactly.
On the day of the murder, Gene cashed a severance check for $3,000 to help pay for the party he planned that night. When you have a party going on and you've got booze and drugs involved and it's almost open to anybody that shows up, it provides an opportunity for several people that have committed this crime.
I think the killer killed them, left. Day goes by. Nobody's reported it yet. They haven't been found. There's not cops everywhere. Let's see if we can conceal this crime with a fire.
The fact that arson was used to cover up this crime scene is the biggest similarity between this case and Laura's.
He tries to set the fire on her chest.
And in this room, the fire is set where?
At the bodies.
On the bodies.
On the bodies.
But we believe that Laura's murder occurred to cover up a sexual assault, while the motive in Gene and Keith's murder was burglary. Those are very different types of crimes.
Wasn't a large amount of people there.
But what a motley crew of people.
A very motley crew of people.
Since so many people may have had opportunity and motive, we have 11 different suspects from 3 different worlds to look into. And any of them could be Gene and Keith's killer. You want to do the TJ world first? Okay, so we got Jason Inman, and then we have
TJ Scooble.
And then we have
Wesley Taylor.
He's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
Our first group of suspects live next door to Gene. We're calling them the neighbors. A couple of them sold drugs to Gene the day of the party.
Wes and Jason were the ones that went to the house and did the transaction, according to the witnesses at the party.
And Jason also rips him off, right? He licks it himself. Wes and Jason reportedly sold Gene some used tabs of acid. And that started a feud among the neighbors that led to them all implicating each other.
Wes was mad at Jason because he was afraid that it was going to get back that Wes was the one who ripped him off. And he didn't want that word on the street that he was ripping people off, which would hurt his dope sale.
So they're pointing the finger at each other.
Mm-hmm. But together, and also independently, they'd point at TJ also.
Well, you have various statements throughout the interviews talking about Jason and TJ wanting to go over and get more money from Gene.
The question is, did they know about Gene's $3,000?
They knew. A girlfriend of Wes drove him to cash the check. So, yeah, they all knew.
Okay, let's do these.
The second group of suspects, we referred to them as the teenagers.
They all were kind of like a little bicycle gang. Just a bunch of weed smokers and petty thieves.
They weren't even looked at until 2 years after the murders.
Yeah. Brandon Fortish was implicated, as well as James Howard, Jason Campbell, and Bryce Wilson, because a guy that lived in town at the time had heard them bragging about doing this murder.
And then when you go to them, James Howard is only 14 years old. You have a statement in your file.
Statement says that he was hanging out with Bryce and Brandon and Jason. They said, hey, we're going to go over to this house. They went over there. He said he waited out by the creek while Jason and Brandon went inside, heard yelling and shouting, and then he said Bryce got a gas can and poured gas and then threw a match. And
the fact that James made a signed confession implicating himself and others is a big thing. The problem was certain details of that confession never lined up with the true facts of the case. So the police never charged these suspects with the crime. And then later on, when he's interviewed again orally, he says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember that. But the teenagers were never completely eliminated, and we're going to have to take a look at them. Now let's focus on our right world of suspects. And we'll start up here with Donald, because we already have him up under Laura's murder. There's no evidence that Donald knew either Gene or Keith. However, he was connected to 3 different people with links to the victims.
Who are those 3 that you have there?
Randy, Ricky, Raymond.
We're calling our last group the right group because they all had connections with Donald. They were either related to him or they lived in Donald's father's house. All of the right group has extensive criminal histories, including arson, burglary, and drugs.
Okay, what are we going to put first under Donald Wright for our double?
He's a burglar looking for money.
He's a burglar. How far does he live from the double?
About 4 or 5 walks.
How many minutes walk?
I'd say I'd average it to 7 minutes.
He lives with several of the party goers.
Yeah, Randy and Butch.
Lives with fellow partiers.
There's no record that Donald attended Gene's party, but his 2 friends did. Randy Huggins and Raymond Butch Bailey, who was also Donald's cousin, showed up uninvited.
What do y'all want to put under Raymond?
He was at the party with Randy.
Drinking.
Randy and Butch say they left last.
So, last one to see him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one that drove him and Randy to the party. He's the one that
He drove
home.
Randy walks home.
Mm-hmm. Walks an odd route home when he could have had a ride.
Butch and Randy drove to the party together. But when they went to leave, Randy chose to walk home. Randy walking home is strange because Butch is leaving at the same time and they're both going to the same house.
If he's lying about the walking, what's his reason for lying?
My theory is he says, I want to walk. He goes back to the house.
And does the crime?
And does the crime, and then he walks home.
We can't convict somebody because he likes to walk.
I know, but you can question him as to
Yeah.
odd.
He was an escapee out of Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't like he broke out of prison. He's on a work furlough type
just walks
detail.
away.
He just walks away.
I'll put escapee in quotes. The 4th suspect in this group is Ricky Huggins, Randy's brother and Donald Wright's brother-in-law, who says he was not at the party.
He lives across the street from the party.
Arson priors?
Arson arrest? Yeah.
Ricky's history of arson and his connection with the rest of the Wright group makes you wonder whether or not he committed this crime alone, if he may have committed it with other members of the Wright group, or if it's just a coincidence and he had nothing to do with it at all. Randy can cover for Butch, and Butch can cover for Randy, and Ricky is maybe out of it because he's saying he didn't even go to the party, but nobody can say where Donald is.
Right.
And the only reason we think Donald's a possible suspect is because of the similar case 5 months prior. The problem is they're all related, and they're all in the same world, and it's hard to get any of them to talk about the other.
We have about 50, 60 witnesses to talk to.
It seems like
in about 7 different states.
Piece of cake. We're in White Settlement, Texas, investigating the double murder of Gene Giddens and his friend, Keith Durrington.
Want to have a seat right there?
Hey, man, how you doing? I'm Alan Brown. I came in to help try to see if we can help out with this case from 1992, since at least one member of our teenage group of suspects at one point confessed to committing this crime. It makes sense for us to learn more about them. Well, the case that we're looking at is the Giddens case, which is the 2 guys that were killed and the house caught on fire. Our first witness was known to spend time with Brandon, Jason, Bryce, and James at the time of the crime. You remember some guys you knew back then, James Howard and Brandon Fortek?
Yeah, yeah. They were a big circle.
And you hung out with them too?
Brandon, me and him never hung out. Back then, he was like, the devil worshipping, and he'd come over to my house right when I first met him, and my mom had a big picture of Jesus on the wall, and he took down and put a big pentagram on there, Yeah, and that didn't fly too well,
Bet it didn't.
I bet.
But out of that group, who were you the best of the friends with?
Right, James Howard, he was with me that night that it all happened. And we seen the fire trucks,
Were y'all out riding bikes that night?
Yeah.
That's how y'all got around as a group, was on bikes?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's when we seen the fire trucks, and we was like, well, I'm gonna go check it out. And I had no clue at all if anybody died or anything.
This witness gives James an alibi on the night of the fire. But the fact remains, James signed a confession stating he was involved in both the murder and the arson. What did James ever tell you about why he wrote that statement out?
He said it was all bullshit. He said the cops made this statement. They was trying to tell me that James pleaded to doing it, and I was like, no. I know for a fact he was with me, and I know we didn't do it.
The witness seems convinced that James had nothing to do with Gene and Keith's murder. But it's hard to imagine why James would confess to a crime that he didn't commit. We really appreciate you coming down.
No kidding.
About a lot of stuff. If you think of anything,
believe me, I'll let you know.
we're going to see Brandon Fortish, who was one of the members of the teenage group that was implicated by James as being involved in the murder.
I figured the best angle with this is talking to him about
who he's running with back then. That'll give us kind of a gauge on how much he's going to lie.
There you go.
So investigation's tricky because James has implicated Brandon in this double murder.
Hey, Brandon.
But we also have to approach Brandon like a potential witness against James.
All I know is I got arrested supposedly for 2 counts of murder and somebody burned a house down over in that area somewhere.
Okay.
And like so, the police department kind of had it in for me to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, there was an incident where me and a couple of them guys got to drinking one night and we found this old wrecked car and we set it on fire. After that, I was accused of multiple arsons. I'm innocent, okay? I know that James was called in and he was interrogated to the point where he signed a statement saying that I did it.
Yeah.
Because he was terrified. Me and him got in a huge argument about that.
Well, I would think so.
The problem is he implicated you, but the problem in our world is he implicates himself. And usually when you implicate yourself in something, then it's believable. Okay.
I mean, I'm willing to take a polygraph test. Whatever you'd have me to do, I did not commit those crimes.
In my experience, guilty people don't usually volunteer to take a polygraph test. With the interview and Brandon volunteering to take a polygraph, indicates to me he's not guilty of this crime. There's no gas back that way.
Yeah, there's nothing back there. It's like they put the prison out in the middle of nowhere for a reason.
We've been able to locate Bryce Wilson from our teenager group, and he's currently incarcerated in the Texas Department of Corrections. So back then, and I wrote some notes just off what the police had written in their report, that you had said that they, meaning Brandon, James, and Jason, went over, threw a brick through the back door, they went upstairs, cut both the guys' throats, and then they burned the house with gas. Did you ever say all that?
No, I never said all that.
You never said all that.
I never
like
said
that.
any of that. Listen.
Because James made a confession. And
they say that he made a confession, but they also say I said that. And I know I didn't say that.
Okay.
No, I mean, if you're looking at a couple kids for doing some shit like that's some mafia type shit.
Did James ever brag around that he did that, whether he did it or not?
No, but I do know that when they had us in that police station, that I could hear him crying.
Do you remember how y'all got implicated in this?
I heard that there was an informant guy that gave them that story and then required an award. That's what I heard.
Did you ever hear who did that?
Yeah, it was a guy named...
All right. We appreciate it. According to Bryce, James was forced into giving a false confession. It's also possible that James was so young he felt intimidated or confused. But we can check out Bryce's claim that a tipster implicated the teenage group to begin with. He said, it was all a big hoax, basically.
We've looked into Bryce Wilson's claim that a paid tipster is the one who implicated the teenager group in Gene and Keith's murders.
They were prone to call them Crime Stoppers a lot.
Was that how they tried to make money?
Yeah. So it wouldn't be out of character if called and said, hey, James did this.
Yeah, that would not be out of character.
We can't confirm the identity of the tipster because it was received anonymously, but there is evidence that a phone tip was called in implicating the teenagers, and the caller may have received reward money for doing so.
These 4 come into the picture all because that story to Crime Stoppers, and he did it to collect money. That's all it was.
Yeah. We had some false confessions going on. They were young.
And those kids can't keep their mouths shut. The police would have heard it on the street. I mean, they're 14, 13, 17.
None of them were innocent, but they were innocent of this murder.
So I think we're pretty unanimous in this room that these poor kids in our teenager group are completely innocent of all of this.
Correct.
You just want to have a seat right there for me?
Sure.
It's time to go back to square one and talk to the people who went to Gene's party, which was the last place Gene and Keith were seen alive.
Why don't we just talk about what you remember that night?
We went to this party, which consisted of very few people. Now, the boys, they were kind of goofy. I think they mentioned something about that they dropped a couple hits of acid. This was before the 2, I'm going to call them the 2 creeps came in.
According to statements, we believe the 2 men this witness is talking about are our suspects, Randy Huggins and Butch Bailey.
And they were kind of like looking around and kind of scoping things out. I assumed at the time that at least Eugene knew them. But I remember asking him, like, who are they? And he goes, I don't know.
Why do you think they came to the party?
I think they were crashing the party to see if there was anything that they could get from the party, any drugs, booze. You know, there might have been something said about money. My more wise hindsight is that these guys, being kind of predatory the way they were, could have very well been there to harm them.
I got the feeling that the creepy guys knew that they were more vulnerable.
Yes, oh, absolutely. They were very defenseless.
What this witness has to say about Randy and Butch makes you wonder if they showed up at Gene's party with the intent of getting a hold of that $3,000. There was nothing in Butch's criminal history about criminal mischief, arson, anything like that, right? Butch Bailey is Donald Wright's cousin, and he lived in Donald Wright's father's home.
Hi, I'm Detective Callahan.
Hello, I'm Butch Bailey.
We want to see what he has to say about that night, about why he went to the party, and who might be involved in Gene and Keith's murders. On the night of the party, you were with Randy. Do you remember how y'all went home from the party?
I vaguely remember being at the party, having a few drinks, that's about it.
Let me read this to you. These are summary notes that the cop made from back then after talking to you. Butch advised that he and Randy had gone to the party. There were no problems during the party, and that he and Randy left the party before midnight, leaving Keith and Eugene there.
I can't even put the names to the faces and stuff like that.
All right. We're curious about Randy's walk home. He had a perfectly good ride with you.
I don't recall, I really don't.
But you know why we're asking that, because he separates himself from you.
Right.
You go straight home. He doesn't. What did he do when he separated himself from you? Help us. What else are we not asking you to get to that point?
Ladies, I can sit here and guesstimate, but the reality of this here thing is, I could not recall Ricky's name, Randy's name, until you guys just gave them to me. If I can't recall a name, how am I going to recall why he would not have rode with me?
Butch doesn't seem to remember very much about that night. That might mean that he just has a bad memory, or he's trying to protect himself or somebody else. There are some things that worry us about Donald having to do with the night of the fire.
Well, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
How come?
Personally, because he's like a brother to me. He's a kind of hard person.
Okay.
He's generally a great guy.
Well,
he
that's-
just has a drug problem.
What kind of drugs?
He liked doing meth.
Okay. And I guess what that makes us worry about is that one night when he was on meth, if something crazy could have happened.
I see where you're going with that, but I don't feel it wrong. Had that in you.
The only thing that Butch does seem to be clear on is that Donald did not commit these murders.
They said he gets off at 4:30, right?
5:30. They close at 5:30.
Randy Huggins was another suspect in the Wright group who showed up at Gene's party the night Gene and Keith were killed. You mind if we just talk to him, visit with him? Free world. He was also at the time an escapee from a Missouri prison work furlough and walked home from the party that night even though he had a ride.
Do you recall why you walked home that night?
Man, I really don't remember, honestly. But I walked a lot back then. You know, hell, I was 100 pounds less. You know what I mean?
You've already said yourself, you were looking over your shoulder all the time. Every time you saw the cops, you were shitting yourself. You were high, you were probably drunk, and there were reports of acid being done there that night. Do you remember?
I didn't do no acid.
You know you didn't do no acid? Okay.
I've never done that. The fact that you walk home, you're at a party you don't belong at, everybody talks about it. Honestly, I'm not lying to you guys. Nothing happened while I was there. With Butch or nobody. When we left, they were still there.
They being?
Gene.
Gene?
And I think he had a guy or two there still when we left. Your statement says when you and Butch left, you were the last two there. Our information is that you know. Listen, if I knew, I'd tell you guys. I would have told them then. Randy has a good answer for everything. But when you look at a map and you see the shortest distance between his house and Gene's house, the route he took home doesn't make any sense. All right, well, guys, we done? Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know where I work. You know where I live.
Yeah, we do.
I'm not hard to find. So we're not making any progress with the Wright group at all.
We're investigating the 23-year-old murder of Gene Giddens and Keith Durrington, where we believe the motive was the $3,000 in cash that Gene had that day.
Did we bring any of the photos?
I got them on my phone.
Got them on great. Oh, you don't have pictures anymore. You done got high-tech.
High-tech, man.
You know, when you don't carry one of those Star Trek communicator flip phones, you can do that.
Look at that flip phone. I'm waiting for pay phones to come back.
Right?
Information developed after the time of the murders demonstrates that the neighbor group knew that Gene had that money from cashing that check. Because two of them sold LSD and weed to Gene.
When Wes died, she said the one thing she'd hate to have to do is to tell her daughter that not only was her daddy murdered, her daddy was also a murderer.
One of the suspects, Wes Taylor, was murdered a few years ago. We were able to locate a former girlfriend of Wes. She and Wes were dating at the time of the murders. And we're hoping that maybe Wes told her something about him years ago.
Kind of start from the beginning, if you would. Not necessarily with the murder and the fire, but what about your and Wes's relationship?
Wes and I had a very volatile relationship.
Did you?
Yes.
Volatile or violent or both?
No, we pushed each other around, but we didn't hit each other.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was more, there was a lot of anger, a lot of emotion.
What about taking Gene to cash his check?
I remember taking him, I took him to the check cashing place.
Do you remember how much the check was for? Or was it
Several
different?
thousand.
To your knowledge, was he blabbermouth, hey, I've got a lot of money coming, I'm having a party Saturday night?
Yeah, I do remember him saying, yeah, because he wanted to buy alcohol and he wanted to buy drugs. I think he was sending the word out that he wanted stuff.
He wanted to get the word out on the street that he was
wanted
looking
dope.
to buy something.
And I know Wes did hook him up.
Do you remember what he hooked him up with?
Sheets of acid.
So he didn't have any issue selling to Gene then?
He didn't. He wasn't friends with Gene.
But it's business.
But I'm going to get this for him because he probably got a cut. I cannot say that if it did happen and he was the person that did it, that it was because of money. Because Wes was not geared that way.
He wouldn't have killed somebody over money.
And he wouldn't have killed him over being gay.
No.
Do you think he would have been able to hide it from you for all those years, especially through the investigation, had he done it?
He was able to keep a lot of things from me, and I turned a blind eye to a lot of stuff. But I really think that I might have been sharp enough to know that he murdered two guys next door.
All right, dear.
Thank you. Take care.
When talking to the girlfriend, she was very candid, very honest in her description of Wes and their relationship, both the good and the bad. I don't see any reason that she would not tell us the truth, especially since Wes has already died.
Looks like he's got kiddos.
Yeah.
How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
We haven't managed to track down Jason Inman, but we have found another suspect in the neighbor group, TJ Scooble, who moved out of White Settlement only weeks after the murders.
That night, when someone knocked on the door asking where the guy next door, whatever his name was,
Gene?
I think, yeah, and asked where he'd been. I said, I haven't seen him all day. He said, well, his house is on fire. And I could see the glow from the fire of the house on that house across the street. I went out there, I was like, holy crap.
What was Gene like back then?
Gene was just a nice person. It's like, someone's nice to me, I'm going to be nice back to them.
Sir, are these the people that live with you?
That looks like one of the guys that was there a lot. So I do remember this guy, Wes. I didn't have really any close ties to any of those people. I was just up there because of my girlfriend at the time, Marla.
Do you remember anything about the drug dealer ripping off?
Well, see, because I wasn't there whenever they did that, but I just remember them saying something about Eugene came into a lot of money from somewhere. But I remember they went to that party that night.
Did you ever see anything the whole time you were in White Settlement that let you know who hurt and killed Eugene?
Oh, no, absolutely not. If I knew, I would tell you. I'm not scared to be a narc or a snitch, you know. I want that son of a bitch caught.
Okay, so let's start with focusing on the next door neighbor group, the people that live next to Gene. What do y'all think about that group?
I think they can be eliminated after talking to everybody, and not just TJ, but also with the lady friend.
I think there was just a lot of finger pointing back then, but there's never been anything else.
I think the only reason they're suspects to begin with is because they delivered dope that night.
All right, so we're going to mark off Jason Inman, TJ Scooble, and Wes Taylor, the next door neighbor group. We've eliminated all of our suspects in our teenager group and our neighbor group. And we ought to feel like we're getting closer to figuring out who killed Gene and Keith, but there are still so many unanswered questions. Frustration continues. All right, let's knock it out. Is that okay?
I'm very ready.
All we have left to pursue at this point is our final suspect in the right group. Since we already interviewed Butch and Randy and Donald last week,
I don't know nothing about this murder.
now it's time to talk to Randy's brother, Ricky Huggins.
Ricky? Yes. Detective Callahan.
How you doing? Nice to meet
Hi, you want to come over here and sit in my truck with me so we can stay out of the heat?
Yes.
Ricky says he was with his wife the night of the murders and he did not go to the party. But he's also an arsonist, and Gene and Keith's crime scene involved fire.
We'll start with that fire. I mean, you remember that fire?
Yeah, I wake up to an orange glow coming in through the window, and I look out, woke my wife up, and I told her, I said, hey, I said, Gene Nim's house on fire.
Ricky, after all this happened and y'all are all sitting around going, what in the hell happened over there? Did a discussion come up about the party that happened that night before the fire?
Saturday night, I never seen nobody over there all weekend.
What about your brother being there? Why would your brother want to be there?
I don't have a clue.
So you never asked him afterwards, what the hell happened at the party? Y'all are at a party and house ends up getting burned up.
I didn't know they actually went to the party. I didn't know nothing about it.
It's odd that Ricky didn't know anything about the party when you factor in his previous statements. Look at this, what you said right here when you gave your statement. Read that out loud.
Ricky advised that he was invited to the party. I don't remember getting invited to a party.
Keep going.
Okay. But didn't go because of his wife, Veronica, who disapproved of his drinking.
Does that help you remember it?
I don't remember getting invited to a party, but yes, I was drinking. I did drink a lot back then.
We don't know if Ricky's just using his past drinking as his excuse or he really doesn't remember. But he does have a criminal history that we want to learn more about. Did you ever get arrested for anything at all in Missouri?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yes.
Tell me what, I'm going to write it down.
It's an extensive record here.
Any arsons?
In the 70s. In a motel room. We was all partying, drinking, and everything. And Angie kept throwing lit cigarettes at me. Bam, bam. And I kept grabbing it, put it on. I threw one at her, and she rubbed it in the mattress, but caught the mattress on fire. I got charged with arson.
Is that the only time you've been charged with anything close to an arson?
No. And then when I went to prison the second time, that's what I went to prison the second time over, was a 68 Mustang. Got drunk on whiskey. Stole it, run the crap out of it, rammed it in a tree, stripped it, and burned it.
Okay, so you burned up a car. Anything else?
No, that's it.
You didn't set the fires
No, ma'am.
for that house.
No, nothing.
Okay.
I've done nothing
And
wrong.
you're not protecting any of the people in your world who you think or know did it?
I'm not protecting. No, I ain't gonna protect nobody. If I knew who did it, I'd tell you. I want answers too. Gene was a good person.
Ricky's arson history puts him on our suspect list. But the details of those crimes turned out to be less serious than we thought. 3 trailers and a horse and a shed and a gate.
This is it.
Stu, Allen, and I have tracked down Donald's brother in the hopes of trying to find out more about Donald and what might have been happening in Donald's world back then.
Do you remember hearing about the murders that happened back in 1992, back in White Settlement, involving those 2 guys?
That Gene Giddens guy.
You knew Gene?
Yeah, I knew him. I went to school with him.
You went to school with him?
Yeah, we were in about the same grade.
Did you ever go over any parties at Gene's house?
Oh, yeah.
How many times did Donald go to the parties with you at Gene's house?
I know he went twice with me.
Okay.
That I went.
When he says that Donald actually went to Gene's parties, I'm going, dang. We've all been wondering whether Donald had a connection, and now we know that he did. Wasn't that around the same time Donald was kind of using a lot of meth?
Yeah. Yeah, he did that. Now, he got tied up with the wrong people on that. I love my brother, man. I love him. I wish he'd straighten up.
I do too, but it sure sounds like when he gets on meth, he does some crazy stuff.
Last time I seen him, when he was on it, it just seemed like he changed.
Well, thank you for answering our questions today. You think of something, you call Stu.
I sure will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
David Wright can prove that Donald knew Gene, but that's a far stretch from proving that Donald committed this double murder. And right now, we're out of people to talk to. I think that we've done a good job of handling the Donald Wright, Laura Walsh case, but look at this board on the other case.
Well, the people we've talked to, they're old dopers, or some of them are still continuing to use, and their memories have not been the best.
I can't put the names to the faces and stuff like that.
And I run into what I think were a lot of selective memories, too, for people that weren't the best citizens back then.
Listen, if I knew, I'd tell you guys. I would have told them then.
You know, the exception is Ricky Huggins. His arsons turned out to be really lame, and he's always had an alibi for that night.
He was just a suspect by association.
Yeah, we still got Donald Galeranetis and Randy and Butch.
You know, you can put Randy and Butch at the party.
But at this point, we can't say that Randy or Butch or Donald had anything to do with this crime.
It's all coincidence.
After all we've done and all we've seen and talked to, it's pretty frustrating to have worked so hard and found so little. Kind of depressing.
I feel like we're spinning wheels in mud. The ranger listened to the phone call. He says really hard to tell if he's just talking about the one or both.
Earlier today, Alan heard from Texas Ranger James Holland, who's been helping out on the case. The prison where Donald's being held called the ranger to tell him that they recorded a very interesting phone call that Donald made.
What's going on with you? Anything different?
Texas Rangers come up here. They say they got evidence that I was the one that done a murder a long time ago.
All I can tell you is search your soul, man.
I'm tired of running. But I'm gonna make it right. I've got him after that, and then after he's sober. He sounds like he's reaching out to tell us the story.
Hold that thought. The Texas Ranger and Alan Brown are headed back to the TDC unit where Donald's being held to see if Donald has changed his story about Laura or about Gene and Keith's murder. We don't know what to expect from this visit to Donald Wright this time. You never take on a cold case with your only play the hope that the suspect is going to confess, but that's what we're looking at right now. Our hope is that the Ranger and Alan can perform a miracle, because we don't want to tell two different families that they're never going to get justice.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, Stu.
Just want to know what came out of this.
Hey, the lawyers could deal with the legal issues, but if he tries to take the stand, he's going to have big problems with what he just said.
What'd y'all find out?
Donald came in, and I'm summarizing all of this, but, the Ranger's like, the ball's in your court. You know, what do you got for us? And he said, I want to go back to Tarrant County.
And he says, and I'm going to give you the other one when you get me back to Tarrant County.
I'm going to give you the double.
Did y'all say, are you talking about Gene and Keith to him?
He was pretty clear he means the double.
But y'all made it clear he's not throwing Butch or Randy under the bus. It's him.
The Ranger asked him straight up,
Are we looking for another actor in the double besides you? And he said, no, it's just me.
I'm good for all three.
That sounds
Freaking
fantastic.
amazing.
Fantastic. Just get him back here.
Thank you, Alan. It's amazing. All right. Holy shit.
I can't freaking believe
I
it.
can't either.
I know. Seriously, I gave up. I gave up. I was already thinking of what we're going to tell the family.
Oh, I know.
God, oh my God, a miracle
Lord have mercy.
happened.
Confessions just don't happen like that. Donald probably realized once he knew he was done on one that what's it going to hurt, and it gives him a little bit of a bargaining chip at allowing us to close another case. I'm still wrapping my brain around it.
How long is that going to take?
A while. It's going to take a while.
After 23 years of just wanting to have an idea who did this, the fact that you're telling them what you can today is going to be pretty amazing for them. We're on our way to tell Gene and Keith's families the good news about their case. This is the best part of the job. Thank you. Good morning. What are y'all doing this morning? We want to be real careful with what we tell Gene and Keith's family, because this is still ongoing and there are still a lot of legal decisions that need to be made. So the news we have for y'all today is that
We're going to be
probably within the next few weeks, presenting this case to the district attorney.
That's great. How good.
And we just want to make sure we get it absolutely perfect.
He admits that he's the one that committed both of these crimes.
To know that there really is some justice means a lot. I were able to talk to him, I would tell him that we definitely miss you and that they got the guy that did you wrong.
This is probably the first time I've cried about it. I've always tried to be so strong. And this is the first time I've gotten to feel this feeling, and it's awesome. It is so awesome. We've spent 23 years not knowing anything, and there's a lot of satisfaction in the truth.
Y'all have been through the most horrible thing anyone can go through, especially you, because he was your son. No matter what we tell you, it doesn't bring Gene back. It doesn't bring Keith back. We know that. We just want you to know that the person who did this to Keith and Gene has been found and caught, and it's all going to be okay, but it's going to take a long time.
The last couple of weeks has been very emotional, reliving everything again and going through that journey. But I think that Keith would be pleased today with the efforts that have taken place, and I'm pleased. Do you mind if we join hands? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing these people together, and thank you for the ending in this case.
It's wonderful that the White Settlement Police Department made the decision to reopen this case, and they can be proud that it turned out this way.
We thank you for everything that you've done for us, and we appreciate your love. In Jesus' name, amen.
I've been told before by family members of murder victims that there is no such thing as closure, but there is such thing as justice. And we couldn't be any more satisfied for Laura, Gene.
Girlie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sitting here with Abby. What are you doing?
Well, I'm sorry I'm going to miss this one, but you know I've got no big family events.
It's too bad that Yolanda can't be here with us for this next investigation. Hey, I miss you. We'll see you next case, baby.
Good luck, you guys.
All right, bye-bye.
See you, Yolanda.
But I've called in Abby Abadondolo to help us out. I feel kind of funny sitting over here looking next to me and seeing you and not Yolanda's long red hair, dude.
I do not have long red hair, no question about that.
We are in Okaloosa County, Florida, to investigate the missing person case of 37-year-old Marie Carlson, who was last seen on October 17th, 2011. Marie, she's one of those people that life kind of kept kicking in the teeth.
Even though she had a lot of problems in her life, Marie was a mom, and moms don't usually leave their kids.
In some instances, you can make that hard argument. In this case, we're going to need to also consider Marie's very unique history. Marie was a very loving mother, but sometimes she did behave unpredictably, possibly due to her diagnosis of bipolar disorder. She was trying to stabilize her life to be the best mom that she could before she disappeared.
All missing person cases are sad, you know, not just for the investigator, but for the family. And it does tug at your heart because you can bet every time they go to the grocery store and they see somebody that reminds them of that person, they're hoping they're going to run into them.
With a missing person case, you have the presumption that that person is still alive somewhere. It's not against the law to live under the radar. So if this is in fact a murder case, one of the first hurdles that we have to get past is that Marie is still alive. She just doesn't want to be found.
I'm glad you're here, man, because this case, it's going to be hard.
We could definitely use some luck, a little Jedi mind trick every now and then in there in the interview.
Well, let's hope that because 3.5+ years have passed, all the people from the church might add a little bit more to the story, too, now. Marie was deeply involved with the local church, which might make this case especially challenging. If secrets were being hidden to protect the church, we're going to need to uncover them to figure out whether or not we're looking for Marie or for her killer.
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
I've chosen cold cases from across the country and teamed up with the best detectives to solve them. We're more determined than ever to bring justice to these victims.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you
good
guys
morning.
doing?
Kelly, nice to meet
Kelly?
you.
Hi, Nestle.
Hey, Nestle, good to finally meet you.
Hi, I'm Keith. Nice
Read
to meet
all
you.
about you.
And this is our lieutenant.
Hey, Eric Aiden.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Every investigator has one case that sticks with them.
Y'all ready to go to work?
Yes, ma'am.
Show us our workroom.
This is one of the hardest cases because we don't have a body, we don't have a crime scene. This one has stuck with me over the years. Even after my retirement, I think it will still continue on with me.
Keith and Nestle, can y'all tell us a little bit about Marie?
She's half American, half Filipino.
She worked for the police department in Colorado.
Yes, sir. She was a booking deputy.
With a desire to become an FBI agent.
Right.
This is a smart lady.
Marie wanted to try things. She wanted to live life. She was friendly. She was dynamic. She was beautiful. Marie was the kind of lady that you want to be.
What I really want to go into is Marie being a mother. Marie is the mother of a little girl named Paris. She loved that little girl, but realized that she couldn't take care of Paris, so she gave up, which is the hardest thing for a mother to do, gave up Paris to Jeff, her ex-husband.
The information we had received, she had some psychological issues.
She was at one point diagnosed as being bipolar.
That is
and
correct.
was on medication.
Yes.
Why don't you walk Abby and me through your investigation in the case?
The case was first called in by Jeff, her ex-husband, over a mass text that was sent out on Wednesday, the 19th of October. Her text said she had left the Fort Walton Beach area. She did not want to tell anybody what her plans were because they'd try to stop her. He called down to our office and we took the report. There's not against the law to run away. But after a few days, I decided to go to where she was living at, and that was with a pastor by the name of James Flanders and his wife, Tanya Flanders, at their residence here in Fort Walton Beach. He says that they helped her out a couple of years, and they wanted another baby, which Tanya could not have.
Okay.
And that Marie was a surrogate for them.
Okay.
Yes, and she gave birth to a little girl named Grace.
According to James and Tanya, they had a very close relationship with Marie. In fact, Marie was so grateful for their friendship and generosity, she agreed to be a surrogate for them and gave birth to baby Grace, who was only 3 months old at the time of Marie's disappearance. So what do they tell you about the day of Marie's disappearance?
James says that Tanya takes the baby and goes to Bell's Outlet. James says he takes off for a run. James and Tanya go back to their house and they say that Marie's truck is gone. The 19th of October is the mass text.
Okay.
At that point, James and Tanya say that they go directly out to the airport to look for her vehicle. And he spots the truck, so he drives the truck back home. They also talk about she does go missing at times, and this is not unusual for her.
Police searched flight records and they found no evidence that Marie flew anywhere around that time. So the question is, did Marie truly run away like her text message said, or was there foul play involved? I think we ought to start with missing person question mark.
Correct.
And these are our arguments why Marie really just went missing.
Prior history.
Prior history.
Walking away, leaving for a couple days.
She was constantly moving.
Yeah, constantly.
What else about the just leaving?
Bipolar.
Marie had a journal where she had written this kind of crazy talk.
Just rambling on.
Well, it just confirmed she's bipolar.
Right.
Given to Paris.
That's the single biggest one. Marie lived a life where she often wanted to just take off. And if she was capable of picking up and running off and leaving her first child with her ex, then there's a real possibility that she just took off again. Oh, that's a pretty good list. Okay, so now let's flip it around and come up with all of our arguments for murder. Okay, we know we have two suspects. Let's put up the Right Reverend.
Pastor James.
Smooth talking.
He's charismatic, too.
Let me ask you a quick question. What are you doing right now?
James Flanders was a pastor at a non-denominational church in the Fort Walton Beach area. Very charismatic, a good speaker. He actually posted some things online and he was able to develop a real following from that.
Last one alone with Marie.
Yes, that's huge.
He didn't report her missing.
Yeah.
They left in the middle of the night in a hurry.
Left in a hurry, that's a big one.
And it was directly after having contact with Keith.
After Marie's disappearance, rumors began to swirl, leaving James and Tanya in the middle of the investigation. The church asked James Flanders to resign his pastorship, and after police aggressively questioned Tanya, they quickly packed up and left for Arizona. But were they merely overwhelmed by all the scrutiny, or were they hiding something? Okay, so let's put up Tanya Flanders.
She's the rock.
Of the household
Yeah.
and the church.
What's the first thing y'all want to put?
Jealous.
Marie was beautiful.
Baby.
Tanya told several stories about Marie and the pregnancy. She told some that Marie was going to be a surrogate, Some she told that Marie had been with an abusive boyfriend and got pregnant that way. And then when questioned by the police, her story gets even more bizarre.
Tanya tells me that James is the father of the baby. They didn't have money, but they were going to do it the old-fashioned way.
They literally say the words old-fashioned way.
Yes.
He's a preacher.
Yeah, that's right. And Tanya tells me she was there when they had sexual intercourse one time.
She was in the room.
She was there when they were having sex.
Huh.
I was amazed by her telling me this, but in this field of work, you see a lot.
At some point, a baby is brought into this world named Grace. Was Marie supposed to be a surrogate? Did Marie get pregnant to give them a gift? Did James and Marie mess around behind Tanya's back and she gets pregnant? Whatever the case was, it definitely was not traditional. And learning more about their relationship and this pregnancy could be the key to figuring out exactly what happened to Marie Carlson.
With most cases, at least you know what happened to your loved one. In this case, you don't know at all. It's the hardest part of a no-body case.
We're going to meet Marie's two sisters, Esta and Rose.
Hi.
And also the father of her baby Paris,
Pleasure. I'm Jeff.
her ex-husband Jeff.
We just really kind of want to know a little bit about Marie.
She was very loving and very warm.
And bright.
Very pretty, and she was the kind of person that you couldn't help but like.
She was the life of the party.
People loved her.
Yeah, people loved her. The last time I saw her, she talked a lot about her girls. A lot. She loved her kids.
I look at my daughter and I see her, and she's a lot like her mom.
Yeah.
And I feel like my daughter's been robbed.
You're doing great. Just keep going.
It's hard. It's hard to let go. The hard part is not knowing exactly what happened. I'd like my daughter to know and to have some answers.
She was like my sister, but she was also my best friend. I don't have my best friend back.
The challenge here for Nestle is it a missing person or is it a murder case? All you can do now is have faith and trust a little bit longer in Nestle and Keith, and what happens in the next couple of days, that we can at least resolve it and give you some answers.
We are never going to give up.
I know that.
Oh, yeah, I already know that, so.
Thank you. Thanks for doing all this.
Just The Calvary Emerald Coast Church was the center of Marie's social life before she went missing in 2011. It is also where she met our two suspects, Pastor James Flanders and his wife Tanya.
How are you? This is Kelly.
Nice to meet you. An elder at the church might be able to shed some light on the relationship between Marie and the Flanders.
So Maria was coming to the church, and somehow it came about she needed a place to live. And then she got pregnant. Then it came about she was going to give the baby to the Flanders. There was some sort of agreement that after a number of months, breastfeeding would be completed and Maria was going to leave and go live her life. Now in my mind, it all lined up with the way things were supposed to work. You know, it just didn't seem odd to me that she was gone.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for
We appreciate
coming.
it.
You're
Coming
welcome.
down. It's clear that if there were details that were being hidden, then we need to figure out what they were.
They hopefully will be here in just a few minutes.
Okay. On the church staff was a group of 3 women that were called the Inner Circle. They were close friends of Tanya's, and she confided in all of them. But their strong allegiance to James and Tanya may have held them back from being completely forthcoming.
If you look at us like a little cult, we were part of the little inner circle drinking the Kool-Aid.
I value Tanya more than anyone, but I'm not the one to say stuff, you know?
Just let it flow. Just talk. Just talk.
Even if they keep in contact with him and they know about the baby and all that,
Right.
they don't have the reason to defend him anymore. We're hoping enough time has passed to where their relationship with James and Tanya has changed, and we can find out everything that they know.
When Marie moved into their house, they asked me and my husband to help her move her furniture, and so we helped her. I remember that day, we were like, why is she moving in with you guys? Because I know I asked Tanya.
You asked Tanya straight out then?
I said, dude, is there something going on between you three? And that's when she said, yeah, they're in a relationship, the three of them, and keep this in confidence. And I said, if you guys are happy, that's your thing, but if that's what you believe, you need to tell your congregation.
Crazy.
So
It's a crazy situation.
This is far more complex than we first thought. If James, Tanya, and Marie were living in a polygamous relationship, that certainly would have been outside the teachings of their church, which could have been the reason why Tanya wanted to keep it a secret.
she tell you to keep it a secret?
Yeah, asked me to keep it from my husband as well. She manipulated me really well. The way she presented it to me is that she was afraid that Reed would want a second wife as well.
That's pretty smooth on her part.
What was your view of Tanya's feelings of Marie being pregnant?
Well, Tanya had always wanted another child, but they had had problems. So kind of what she presented was, you know, kind of make the best of it kind of thing.
But it was definitely unplanned.
The way it was presented to me, yes, it was unplanned.
By Tanya?
By Tanya.
This contradicts Tanya's initial story that the baby was conceived through a carefully managed sexual encounter between James and Marie, which Tanya claimed she supervised. If the baby was unplanned, then Tanya not only had a forbidden relationship she needed to cover up, now there's a baby involved, which is going to make it even more difficult to keep the situation under control.
The plan was always that they were going to raise the baby together.
And you talk about relationship, living as one. I mean, a whole family.
Yes, living as a family. I know that the relationship was not in a good place.
How do you know that?
Just their whole demeanor. They weren't happy anymore.
What do you think was the big issue between them?
This is just speculation, of course, but you know, Tanya was a little bit older than Marie, and then Marie was in terrific shape.
Marie's
I mean,
prettier.
She was beautiful.
Younger.
You know, she's younger.
Did you ever hear Tanya say, Marie wants more?
No, I did not hear Tanya say that, but did I hear that from Marie? That Marie wanted James.
Marie wanted him to herself. These church ladies, who are Tanya's closest friends, say that Marie wanted James all to herself. And Tanya was trying to keep her husband happy while protecting their reputation and her own position of power within the church. Whoa, what's that?
Here are all the text messages from Marie Carlson's iPhone prior to her going missing. This is a new forensic tool that we recently acquired, and it was able to parse out all her messages and her call logs.
So we've never seen this before?
I don't believe so.
There's no telling what might be in here between Marie and James. These texts could be a huge piece of new evidence. Marie's private messages to James could really paint the picture of their relationship. I want to use my mouth to give a massage. Neck massages, back massages, it's massage night. I'll massage your butt.
But he's not talking that way to Tanya.
Seeing you at church and knowing I can't kiss your lips drives me insane. These text messages, which cover months, prove that James and Marie's relationship was a lot more graphic than the one-time encounter Tanya wants everybody to believe. I think these would get Tanya worked up, don't you?
Squeeze your milky nipples.
My penis says hello. That's a good one.
Look at this one. A finger inside. Imagine my mouth on your... Wow, I think I'll stop there.
It's clear that Marie fell for James' charisma and status, and her infatuation was really growing. It makes you wonder if it wasn't Tanya who couldn't handle sharing his affections. It was Marie, and her way of avoiding a broken heart was to escape. Before the disappearance of Marie Carlson on October the 17th, 2011, She was involved in a secret relationship that seemed to be really having issues, especially after Marie gave birth to baby Grace.
Hi, Nina?
Nina Atkinson is Marie's mother. She lives in Sweden, but she talked to Marie very often. We need to find out if Marie said anything to her mom about her relationship with the Flanders and their plans for the baby.
What did you think about her giving the baby to the Flanders?
The problem, they are fighting each other since they delivered the baby.
They've been fighting with each other since the baby was delivered?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fighting.
About what, do you know?
The husband and wife, they don't want Mary to stay there in the house.
She told you that they had been fighting over the baby because Marie wanted to raise the baby and they didn't want her involved. Okay. That's good. All right, Nina, as soon as we find more information, we will call you.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Did you hear what she said?
That they were fighting over the baby.
That's a pretty good motive right there.
What's the number one thing Tanya Flanders hates to lose?
Control.
Control. And she was losing it.
Alice K. Barber was Marie's very close friend and almost like a second mother to her.
I really appreciate you coming over.
Marie lived with Alice before she moved in with the Flanders, and they remained close up until her disappearance.
What was her interaction with Grace?
She loved that child, and it was your typical mother and newborn baby.
Okay, let's fast forward to you get the group text.
The group text? This is... Yesterday I left Fort Walton Beach to do something I always wanted to do. I didn't tell anyone because I knew you would try to talk me out of it. I love and appreciate you all. What is this?
It's pretty close.
3.5 years later, when you talk to Alice K. Barber about this text message, she knows it by heart because she's probably gone over that text message 1,000,000 times. When you hear her talk about it like that, it just breaks your heart.
I started texting back and nothing was coming back, and then finally I said, what about Grace? Where's Grace? And the text said, she's fine. She's with Tanya and James. She's in good hands. And when the Tanya came before the James, I knew that wasn't her. She never, ever, ever, not one time did she say Tanya and James. Ever. It was always James and Tanya. Tanya's name never, ever came first.
You instantly know that it's not Marie because the text says Tanya and James, and she would have written it James and Tanya.
Right.
Alice knew Marie more than anyone, so the fact that she picked up on something odd with the wording of a text is significant because it makes you wonder if Marie didn't send out that group text after all.
When she came to the house in September, I felt like she wanted to come back home.
When you say come back home, you mean to move in with you?
And I didn't offer. And I couldn't. I think...
Was that the last time you saw her?
You can't blame yourself, Alice.
No, you really can't.
You can't.
According to James and Tanya, after they received the mass text, they went looking for Marie. They found her truck at the airport. James supplied the police with a receipt that showed that the truck had been parked there one day after Marie disappeared. What's really strange is on the night of Marie's disappearance, a police officer finds her truck at a gas station, abandoned and unsecured.
Hey, white the pickup truck for 748 Golf Frank.
28 returns to Mary Carlson.
So this is where it's found unsecured by the
Correct.
Fort Walton officer.
That's correct.
He knows that this isn't a good part of town.
I mean, this place has got "Steal Me" written all over it.
At the time, Marie hadn't been reported missing, so the police really didn't think much of it. But now it just doesn't make any sense. Why would Marie's truck be abandoned at a closed gas station and then 7 hours later end up at the airport with no record that she ever got on a plane? It clearly doesn't add up, and I think we're missing something here.
Brian, how are you?
Good morning. How are y'all?
Good, you?
Good.
Now that we understand the movements of Marie's truck after her disappearance, we need to learn more about the movements of Marie and our two suspects, James and Tanya Flanders. You fired up?
Ready to go.
Brian Roberts is a member of our team, and he, along with our new cell phone expert, analyzed the cell phone records that the Sheriff's Department so thoroughly collected, and it's time to see what they found.
This first map right here, you can see is for James Flanders' telephone. It's for October 17, 2011. This is the Chevron gas station where the car was left abandoned. There are text messages from James's phone at 7:38 p.m. and 7:41 p.m. pinging off of the towers by the Chevron gas station.
According to James, the last time that he saw Marie was around 6:30 that afternoon at their house. Now we can see that hours later, James' phone was near the gas station where Marie's truck was found abandoned that night.
At 7:52, Tanya said that she'd received a call from James.
So Tanya is over in Destin.
Correct.
And the phone call, she talked to James all the way back to Fort Walton Beach.
Correct.
If James killed Marie and left her truck at the gas station at that time, we know that Tanya wasn't with them because her phone was all the way across town and she never received a call from James until after we believe the crime happened. So the question remains, how did Marie's truck end up at the airport?
This is the parking receipt for Marie's truck at the Northwest Florida Regional Airport. We have Marie's truck going in at 10:19 a.m. on October 18th. And Marie's phone is not pinging off of the towers by the airport. However, we see text messages from James's phone, 10:20, 10:26, 10:27. The times for all of those match perfectly.
Right there at the airport.
Right there at the airport.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. James's phone was by the airport at the very moment Marie's truck ends up there. And his phone was by the gas station when we think Marie's truck was abandoned there. It's possible that if James killed Marie, he somehow disposed of her body and abandoned her truck unsecured at the gas station in the hopes that it would get stolen. When it wasn't, he went to Plan B where he drove it to the airport and abandoned it to try and make it look like Marie took off on a flight out of town.
Now, one last thing. This is Wednesday, October 19, 2011. Marie has supposedly left Fort Walton Beach. What's significant here is at 4:38 p.m., 10 folks got that mass text message from Marie saying that she's leaving the Fort Walton Beach area. Her phone is right over here by their house. And James is at home when he gets it.
Their phones are together.
Their phones are together. Marie's phone never leaves Fort Walton Beach.
That's freaking great.
That's pretty
That's
good.
great. When that mass text from Marie's phone was sent telling her friends she had left town, her phone never left the area. On top of that, Marie's phone and James's phone were both right by the house. It is apparent that Marie never sent that mass text. It is clearer than ever that Marie did not simply run away. We've addressed it all, we acknowledge it all, but in the whole scheme of everything, she is not just missing, it's a murder case.
Correct.
Okay, we still have Tanya Flanders up here on the board. Nestle, what do you think about what do we do with Tanya Flanders?
I don't think we can charge her. I think we prove it in the cell phone records. When we believe Marie's car is put into the gas station, Tanya's cell phones aren't anywhere near the gas station.
I don't think that there is enough evidence to charge Tanya Flanders.
What she's guilty of is trying to preserve her world.
Yes.
All right, so we're taking Tanya Flanders off the suspect board.
Yep, take her off.
Which leaves James.
Pastor James.
Pastor James. Now that we're focused on James Flanders in the murder of Marie Carlson, we need to talk to his inner circle at the church.
This is Abby.
Starting with a good friend of James who he had lunch with 2 weeks after the murder.
So he called up and said, "Hey man, can you get together?" And I said, "Let's meet for lunch." And when he got there, he was really distraught, and he was whispering and he kept going, I can't believe it happened. I can't believe it happened." And I said, "What?" He just said, it's just too bad I can't sing."
That's a new one.
And he had asked if I could get him out of the country. And I said, no.
But he never alluded to you why he needed to be taken out of the country.
No. That just over and over is bad, it's bad.
James Flanders, out of his very mouth, says, I need to get out of the country. Can you help me get out of the country? Why would you say that?
How are you, Jason? Pretty good, man. Good. Good seeing you.
Jason Anderson is the current pastor at the Calvary Emerald Coast Church. After years of acting as the youth pastor under his mentor, James Flanders, he took over when James resigned. When all this is going on at the church, did y'all call him up and say, we need to talk?
I called James and said, there's some things that have been brought to my attention. I'm concerned for you and concerned for the future of the church. So we need to meet ASAP. Then that's when he told me about the physical altercation they had. I guess it was probably the day she went missing.
Can you tell us about that?
He just said that they were at home and she came in the room and she was acting crazy. He said that she got physical with him, like pushing, hitting, scratching, and that he had scratches on his chest and arms, I think.
Being the last person to see that woman alive, James Flanders said that he struggled with her. In fact, struggled so much that she scratched him on the arms and the chest. Classic signs of defense wounds.
Did they say what the fight was about?
I don't know if this is when he said it or how I learned about it, but I remember something that she was threatening to take the baby away.
Don't remember who you heard it from, though?
I don't.
You had to confront your pastor
of
so many years, and now he's committed the sin.
First thing I ever did.
James Flanders is very, very charismatic, and he was like the God in that church. And it really kind of makes you sick because all these people believed in him, and he manipulated all of them because he's very, very selfish, and he wanted to have 2 women in his life. He devastated a whole church full of people. So this is a Sunday church sermon?
This is actually September of 2011.
So about a month before the murder.
Correct. The church themselves put several of his sermons online.
Okay.
When Jesus tells us to love our enemies and bless those who persecute us, he's not saying, yeah, when that person is really out to get you, they're backstabbing you, they're gossiping about you, you need to just really feel all about them. Now, whenever someone is backstabbing me, lying about me, gossiping about me, trying to tear me down or whatever, you know what I want to do? My feelings say, choke the life out of them.
Jeez. And he laughs after this.
Yes. As the Bible talks about the fruit of the Spirit is love. One aspect is self-control. Right? If we didn't have those thoughts of wanting to choke the life out of someone, we would not need self-control. Right?
Wow.
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, that is pretty good.
1 month before the murder.
Yeah. He's talking about himself. Those cactuses are just so cool, man. I've never seen them like that.
Well, so they obviously don't grow in Texas.
They don't.
It's time to talk to our suspect, James Flanders, and his wife, Tanya. They currently live in Arizona, so Nestle, Lieutenant Eric Aiden, and I are taking the trip.
I'm glad that Abby's on the same page as me and that the phone call is a better option.
Our strategy is to talk to James and Tanya separately. So instead of showing up at their house unexpectedly, we're going to call and find out their locations.
Hi, is this Tanya?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Tanya. It's Nestle Moore with Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. I just wanted to let you know that I am still working the case involving Marie. And we have some questions that I think that you could really help me with, you and James. Do you think I could talk to James?
Well, not right now. No, he's not here. His father is in ICU dying right now.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I know you're not, but that's okay. There's no way that he's going to be able to talk to you right now.
Apparently, James is at the hospital with his father who's dying. That's going to be a huge hurdle. Right now, we've got Tanya on the phone. She's alone, and this is a good chance for us to interview her.
We've got some new information, and I really wanted to talk to you and James in person about it.
What new information is it that you have that you can't seem to
Why would James want to get out of the country?
So she just was saying things and being weird.
But why
I
would...
think for James, it was just a matter of, I've got to go because I am so stressed out, I'm going to bust.
Enough to want to leave the country?
Yeah.
Without you? And Grace?
Yeah. I could see myself doing that.
You all had a meeting with the church, and James discloses that there's a physical altercation between Marie and himself. Why wouldn't he tell us about all of that? No, ma'am, we only talked to him one time when Investigator Motz came to your house. That's the only time.
And told him everything that needed to be said.
You don't think a physical altercation between Marie and James was important?
Now, see, well, because those are the very things that you guys will turn into exactly what you turn into.
It's not turning anything into anything, Tanya. It's what happened, and we have questions for you all that we can't have answered unless we talk to you.
Well, you just got a whole bunch of answers, didn't you?
Tanya is the protector of James. Her job in James's life is damage control. She's making sure that she plugs all of the holes in his dam.
Well, I thank you for your time. And I didn't mean to upset you, Tanya. I'm sorry.
Well, you knew that was going to happen whenever you called.
Well,
it's fine. You can do your pleasantries the way that you need to do them. I know that you have to. And I'm not going to say that it's okay.
All right, Tanya. Bye.
She controls everything.
She does.
Here's Nestle. Okay. Wait a second. Hey.
Hi.
How are you out there?
Well, we got a pretty good lengthy phone call with Tanya.
Great.
Where is James now?
He says he's at the hospital with his father.
His father is dying.
And Nestle, you're worried about looking like a cold-hearted bitch calling him standing by his dying father's bedside.
Yes, ma'am. And I am not a cold-hearted person, so...
Well, I am. So I'm trying to figure how we can win from this situation.
Right.
What's your lieutenant say?
My thing is I'm juggling the weight of we would get beat up by a defense attorney about reaching out to him. However, I also don't want the state attorney to ask the question, well, you went all the way out there and didn't reach out to him. Why not?
Y'all decide what you want to do and just call us back and let us know your plan.
Yeah, we will.
Bye. I understand why she's worried, but you're never going to get a better time than now with him. And if a defense lawyer picks on you for it, you say, we've been trying to get him to cooperate for 3.5 years.
The time is crucial now. I mean, what if he said, I'd really like to meet with you guys?
All right.
We're doing it. This is it.
To an automated voice messaging system.
Hi, this message is for James Flanders. This is Nestle Moore with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office.
I know it was hard for Nestle to call James while he's in the hospital with his dying dad.
He's not gonna call back.
But you gotta give her a lot of credit. She realized that it was a tough call to make, and she made it.
Well,
I think that sends a very clear message to them that the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Department hadn't forgotten about Marie and that they will continue with this investigation until this case is resolved.
Okay, now that we've gotten everything put together, we now have at least 4 huge points. Abby and Nestle weren't able to speak with James, but that's okay. With everything that we've learned, we have a great circumstantial case against James Flanders for the murder of Marie Carlson. We know from a new witness that Marie told that witness, I want James all to myself.
Marie wanted James.
Seeing you at church and knowing I can't kiss your lips drives me insane.
We find out that they were fighting over Marie wanting to raise the baby as well.
The husband and wife, they don't want Mary to stay there in the house.
He tells a witness, we had a fight the last time I saw her.
He said that she got physical with him, like pushing, hitting, scratching, and that he had scratches on his chest.
And you add in those beautiful cell phone charts. We learned from cell phone records that Marie's phone and James's phone were both by their house when she allegedly sent the group text. But more importantly, James's phone was by the airport at the very moment when Marie's truck was left there.
Marie's phone never leaves Fort Walton Beach.
What do you think about taking this case to your state's attorneys?
I think we have a very strong case.
I think that this case deserves to be presented to them.
Well, y'all go present it to them, and Abby and I'll wait and hear what you have to say.
Ready, Keith?
I'm ready.
Good luck.
Hello again, my dear.
So we met with the state attorney's office today and presented the case back to them. They've agreed to reevaluate the case and can't promise anything, but this is a step forward. I'm hopeful, so you should be hopeful.
Okay.
What developed this week is good. All the questions have been asked. The sad reality, though, is that we have to tell you Marie is never coming home.
We want to give Marie justice, and we want it for her, but we want it most for y'all.
I do believe my sister, Marie, is going to get justice. I don't know when, but I know it's coming.
Hello, strangers.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey.
So good to see
How are you?
Good to see you. You liking retirement?
Yes.
It's been a while since we've been in Okaloosa County. I know Keith is retired, but before he did, he and Nestle made fantastic progress on this case. So tell me what happened.
We got with our state attorney's office, and Keith and I were able to get a warrant signed for Flanders for second-degree murder. That was an amazing day.
It was one of the best feelings I had in my life when I got to handcuff him. To let him know he wasn't going to get away with what he did.
By pleading guilty, what I understand you to say is that you committed those acts.
He was initially charged with second-degree murder, and he was offered a manslaughter plea, which carried a maximum sentence of 15 years, which is what he received.
Had we wished that he got more? Yeah.
Every cop does.
Absolutely. But we knew that there was going to be a chance for him to show where the body was, that he would take that deal.
He described that Marie was downward spiraling, and he said she lost it. He grabbed her to prevent her from hurting herself or him, and that they fell to the ground. He rolled her over and realized that she was no longer breathing.
So it's a typical bullshit confession. It's not even a real confession.
No. And he took us to her. He says he remembered a conversation with Marie that she didn't want a funeral and she didn't want anybody to see her after she had passed. Right?
Oh my God.
And that's why he chose to bury her in the backyard.
Oh my God. It's still all narcissistic, all about him.
In the end, the biggest thing I learned is trust your gut. And I'm thankful that we did, because we got this end result.
That's right.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been over 2 years since I last talked to Marie's family, and I'm anxious to hear what they think now that the man responsible for killing Marie is finally behind bars. That day in court, tell me about that.
I had to step out, and you gave me a room because I couldn't sit there and look and watch. It was the hardest part for me.
First time seeing him in person, I was fuming. His sentence, it's only 15 years, deserves more than that. But
it's never as much time as you want.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's bittersweet.
Because you just want Marie back.
For me, it's affected how I see the world and how I see people, and I really don't trust people anymore. I don't trust anybody. And I think about how it's going to affect my daughter later on, and how it's going to
thấy cho mình đi nữa thấy. Mình làm côn rất tin. Bây giờ mình cho vào Premier chỗ nào máu mình cắt hết rồi.